Hey guys, we got a long video here. Grab some ribs and enjoy. We're gonna play Wintertide brand. I've been playing Wintertide brand for longer than this channel has been around. I've been playing it since the league it came out. I don't know if that was 3.9 or 3.8, but I've been tuning it over the years, and this is the strongest version by far. This version was already pretty strong. I posted earlier in the league a version that ran the Feared. It could run tier 16s, it could run Minotaur. What I'm doing now is just showing this newer version on just a random formed. You know, just showing the playstyle and the strategy. Playstyle of Wintertide brand or any brands is you throw them on the ground and you let them do their thing. They attach to the enemies. Unlike traps and mines, of course, you can leech from them. Basically, they count as coming from you. Unlike totems, which you cannot leech with, of course. This is a huge advantage sometimes with brand builds. And especially if you hit. Now, Wintertide brand has the downside of not hitting. It doesn't hit at all. It just applies a debuff which stacks based on how it activates. The activation frequency is influenced by the cast rate. So you'll see, this is not the strongest build. I certainly have stronger builds out there. My Flicker Strike builds. But it's very tanky. It's got over 10,000 ES. It doesn't show it here because, of course, we have a mod which is reducing the effect of our non-curse auras. And that was the video footage that showed me I needed to upgrade my loot filter because it showed something not filtered properly. Regardless, we're going to now run a tier 17. Now we're going to try something a little harder. Tier 17s are rough. You can use scarabs to mitigate them. I think that still works, but I'm just going to run it full with full affixes and full mods. And we're just going to run the abomination, which is also called the Uber Depraved Trinity. The ones that we fight all the time. Chevron, Dewedri, Malagaro. And then this is based on the Act 9 boss. Now running through mobs here on the tier 17, it's not so bad. The way this build works, and the way any major brand build works, of course you throw them on the ground and then you use brand recall to pull them forward, which has a cooldown. And you can get the cooldown recovery down if you want, but I don't bother. You can also have the brands last a very long time so they stick to the enemy and they just stay on there. In fact, there was an alternate quality version of Penance brand that did that. You could just put it on the enemy and then hide, and it would just keep activating forever without any expiration, but they nerfed that. Wintertide brand is a cold damage debuff, and like I say, based on cast rate, it applies more and more damage per stage up to stage 20, caps at stage 20 in this day and age. Now you'll see this is a challenging map, and this is not deathless, but I'm going to show something a little later which is deathless. This kind of thing is tough, you know, because you got a lot of mods on your head. And in fact, this build struggles slightly on tier 17s if the defenses are up. In other words, if the mods and the affixes apply, you know, percent more life, life as energy shield of monsters, elemental damage, resistance of monsters. You know, monsters take less elemental damage. That kind of thing. It's actually better that they have more attack. The most important thing on this build, if you're running this particular map, is to avoid Dewedri's just like sludge, this red sludge that comes out. It hurts a lot. This build has some armor. It has armor from two ways, of course. It gets Determination Aura from the Merc. The Merc is invincible. This Merc is insanely invincible. And it's the same Merc as I had posted in the original post for this build. But nice thing about this kind of build, this playstyle, you know, it's not the strongest, but it's very tanky. If you're not running things like this, that comes in very handy because the tankiness means you're just running through, you know, normal tier 16s or normal endgame bosses, and you're going to take them down pretty easy. But when they have huge defenses like pinnacle bosses, this build is best on mob clear. It's best for running Delirious maps, I would say. Typically, I run 60 to 80% Delirious. And as I said, in this long video, we're going to run fairly soon, I believe that right after this, a 100% Delirious map, deathless. Now once you get to this stage, it's not too bad. The Act 9 boss, you just have to kind of dodge that orb, the red orb, and those little red orbs. You know, I was negligent there. But it has over 10,000 energy shield, it has some armor, just from armor gear. In fact, we don't totally relinquish armor gear. People in the prior videos said, why don't we get some kind of circlet to get the ES up even more? Well, you want to have some armor because that gives you some fizz reduction. You want to hit 50% or more. And in Mercenary League it comes in handy because we don't have to worry about stacking determination. This is not low life, so we have limited amount of mana to reserve, but we still pull off, I believe, 7 auras, and it's because of the amulet, which I did play around with. I'm going to go over that at the end, the actual build setup. But hey, look at that. 2 Uber Fragments. Very nice drop. And very doable to farm tier 17s on this if you don't mind dying a little bit. If you are on hardcore, I do not recommend this build on tier 17s, but you can certainly run some Delirious maps, and it is hardcore viable in my opinion, because it has really good faster start of ES recharge. It's pretty much the same build as I posted earlier in the league, with just a few modifiers and upgrades, including a flask in the corner you'll notice, which you might recognize, which I'm going to go over at the end. Now what I'm showing here is the strategy and playstyle of you. Normally 100% Delirious tier 16s, they're not worth it because they slow you down. It's actually better, in my opinion, I've always said, run 60 to 80% on a really good, developed build, and just run lots of them, and it's going to be better because you're not going to have the risk of dying as much, and you're going to be sped up. This is like the end stages of a simulacrum. This is dangerous, but of course we're chaos immune, which is nice. And see, there's tormented spirit possession going on in here. But if you avoid the mobs like this and you just let the brands do their thing, it's nice. There's 2 reasons our brands expire very quickly, and it's because of some of the upgrades on this latest version. And I got rid of efficacy support, which gives more damage over time, increased damage over time, and brand duration. And I got rid of it because I put on a good corrupted level 4 Empower support to get the gem level of Wintertide brand up, because the flat damage scaled at this point higher. You get better DPS with that by getting the level up. I experimented a lot with replica Dragon Fangs because it really does give better DPS. It's better than the amulet I have now, but you can only have 1 amulet. And the replica Dragon Fangs was great because it hit level 30 Wintertide brand. And it also gave some mana reservation efficiency, and it was so powerful, but it just you couldn't get all your auras, and so I played around with it for days before I started my private league, and I was just like, how do I pull this off? How do I get my auras back? I had to give up haste, or I had to give up one of my curse auras and like self-cast elemental weakness. Well, here we have curses affect hexproof enemies from our ascendancy, our occultist ascendancy, which just automatically now applies the curses. It has a little less effect of the curses than self-casting, but it makes our life so much easier because we're already having to think about throwing our brands on the ground. We're already having to think about our left-click cold snap. Occasionally, Order to Me I use for the mercenary, and then most importantly, reviving our little stupid-ass fuck, our little golem, who dies a lot, even with minion life, he dies a lot, of course. But the Chaos Golem is nice because it gives more damage over time effect. And then, of course, just drawing everything near with Brand Recall, and then just Frostblink to move around better. Which I set to spacebar because that way if you play Last Epoch and POE 2, you got muscle memory to just hit the spacebar, so I just changed Q to space on my movement skill. This is a long play. I'm going to show everything in this big map, because I want you to see it's deathless. We beat Occultist, we beat the map boss. So, as I chat, I'm just showing that. But in a nutshell, the Dragon Fang, the replica Dragon Fang, there actually is no Dragon Fang. I was curious, is there a Dragon Fang? No. There's only a replica Dragon Fang. The person who created the item, the supporter who created it, just called it that, which was smart of them, because it makes you think, what is Dragon Fang? Well, there is no Dragon Fang. There's only replica Dragon Fangs. Right now I'm wailing on Occultist. This would be way easier if this was 40 to 60 Delirious, but when you're upgraded, I actually never recommend running less than 60%, and as I say, I don't recommend running more than 80% if you're actually really like farming for loot. But that's my opinion. Unless you're really crazy strong, I guess. But there aren't a whole lot of builds that strong. I mean, I've been creating builds for years, and this one's pretty good. You can see I actually almost died there because there was this DOT thing, but I got out of the way, and because of faster start of ES recharge and then pretty good recharge rate from our various rare items, That keeps us alive big time on single target. On mob clear, it's no big deal because you have Brush with Death, and then we have the Cinder Swallow, which gives us ES on kill. But between those two, on kill, you're just healed all the time. And then we take the Ascendancy Point, which gives us energy shield regeneration, not recharge. And we have some regeneration by fluke on our body armor. If we hit level 96, what we take next is Zealot's Oath. So we give ourselves some more recharge. But recharge is less, I'm so sorry, I always mix those up. Regeneration, just flat regeneration of your energy shield over time. Less important than the recharge rate. When the recharge activates, it's significantly faster heal. Especially when you have large chunks of it, like over 10k. There are builds out there with 20k. Especially in standard. You can get legacy gear. You can get 30k, I think. But you know, it's a balancing act, of course, with your damage. I wanted to have enough damage. This one has the best sheeted damage, and a big part of this is these magic jewels, which I was able to squeeze onto the build, and I'm going to showcase that at the end. Which, it's almost the end. Right now we're just killing Sin's wife. Try to think of a good reference to the CEO meme with his Chief People's Officer that just came out. Like, imagine, you know, Garo-Khan getting caught with someone other than Sin romantically at a Coldplay concert. Alright. 100% Delirious is cleared. Alright, so how did he do it? What is different than before? Well, we still have the same, you know, auras, the same, let's see, 7 auras. And the main difference, as I mentioned before, is the Soul Ripper, which allows us to recharge Vaal Discipline and Vaal Haste more often. It's better than the other, which I was just using for 5% max fire damage. And then, as I said, we got Empower support on our main skill, and then I got this better body armor with just huge amounts of evasion. Or energy shield, excuse me. And then I got this, these gloves that give even... I'm gonna fucking re-record this. Besides Empower, we got a really good energy shield body armor. And then we got gloves, which I had upgraded. They're the same gloves, but I got cold damage overtime multiplier upgraded by hitting it with an Orb of Dominance. Now, the tree is significantly different. I changed the path at the bottom. We kept Deep Chill, Disorienting Display, Brush with Death, and the extra Deep Chill. So a lot is the same. Cold Snap, of course, is how we apply all this extra chill effect. And then I put on the Adorned, which is going to help 3 different magic jewels that we put on. And then we kept Righteous Path to help us with our Zealotry mana reservation, but we were able to get rid of this small cluster that was giving us the haste effect. So this here is Corrupted Blood, cold damage over time, multiplier, and just cold damage, and then cannot be maimed with cold damage over time multiplier, and then that 3% mana reservation efficiency, and helps us get rid of the haste small cluster. And then finally one that gives hinder and energy shield to help us hit 10,000 energy shield flat. And then I used an Awakened Blasphemy support where I can put Empower on those 2 curses, which is free, so it doesn't hurt any kind of mana reservation. And then level 4 Enlighten, which is expensive, but it helped us with the clarity and discipline. And then the other things like haste and all them are in the shield, which give 30% mana reservation efficiency. And then I got this large cluster, which just gives lots of cold damage, energy shield, mana regeneration, because we just have a sliver of mana, and increased attack and cast speed with cold skills, which is very nice. We have this beautiful sheeted 0.09 second activation frequency with over 83,000 cold damage sheeted per second for stage 1, which is much higher than any Wintertide brand that I have run in the past.